And during this tutorial, we're going to be using Pixlr.com to create a repeat pattern for textile design. And as you can see, I've already got my repeat pattern that I've created by hand. And yeah, I've included a link for another tutorial that will show you how to do this in the comment section below. So what we're going to be doing is taking this repeat pattern tile, and we're going to be opening it up in Pixlr.com, which is a free image editing software, and we're going to be creating a repeat pattern from it, so repeating it within Pixlr. So to get started, I'm just going to go back to those initial images. Now you can see I've photographed these. Normally I would scan them, but I wanted to show you what's possible with limited resources and what you can do for textile design at home, or digital textile design at home. These were created by hand, or this one was created by hand using poster paints. And I photographed it rather than scanned it because I know a lot of people don't have access to scanners. And you can see on the right hand side, this is what you kind of want to achieve in terms of thinking about photographing it. So I photographed it next to a window, so I've got maximum light. I've also, in this one here, you can see that the edges are curled up, so that's going to produce some shadows once you take it into Pixlr, which will be more difficult to edit. So try and make it flat and kind of curl down the edges, photograph it, and then we're going to go to Pixlr.com, and when you first come to Pixlr.com, there's two options up here. You've got Pixlr X and Pixlr E. We want Pixlr E, and we're going to go to Open Image, select the image, and we're going to open it up as the original. So always work to the maximum specifications, or the maximum pixel dimensions, because you can always reduce the size at a later stage. Now once you've got this open, we're going to create a new document. So we're going to go File and New Image. And again, we're going to make it the maximum size. So it tells you the max size here. It's 4096 by 4096. Let's call this, so this is a Paisley style repeat pattern, and I've just done created a linear version just to kind of keep this tutorial quick. I will be doing another video to show you how to kind of put the painted or ink version into repeat as well. So once we've got that new document created, I'm just going to minimise this window while I get started. We're going to fill this layer with a white colour. So I'm just going to switch these two colours here using this little curved arrow. So I've got the white showing in front. I'm then going to go to my fill icon, and you want to make sure that whichever layer that you're working on is highlighted in the layers panel. So you can see it's highlighted in blue. I'm going to click inside the image and it should fill it with white. I'm then going to go back to my original, and I'm going to zoom in using Command and plus. So I'm working on a Mac. You can use Control and plus on the keyboard on a PC, or you can use this magnifying glass down here to zoom in and out. We're going to copy and paste this into the new document. So we're going to use the marquee select tool. We're going to click and drag to kind of create a rough selection around it. Make sure that you get some of the background in there so that we've got the full repeat. We're then going to go edit and copy. Again, always make sure that the correct layer is highlighted in blue. Go to our new document, edit, paste. And we're going to go to our Move tool over here, or it's called the Arrange tool in Pixlr. This is similar to Photoshop. So we're going to use this to trace over. So we're just going to reduce the transparency of this layer. So we go to our Layers panel, and we're going to click on these three little dots, and that brings up the transparency for that layer. So let's take that down a bit. Oh, and we also need to lock it in place. So we're going to just click on, you can see it's unlocked, we're going to click on locked. And I'm going to zoom in. And when you're navigating around the image, once you're zoomed in, if you hold down the space bar, it brings up the hand tool, so you can just click and drag to move around the image. Now all I'm going to do is I'm going to use the brush tool to draw around these lines, just so we can keep this tutorial quite quick. And you can see I've got an example open over here. So this is what it will start to look like when we start to draw, and we're going to draw on a new layer, as you can see, and it's going to end up looking something like this. So I'm going to create a new layer to draw on, because it's going to be easier. If I make a mistake, I can always erase parts of it or delete the whole layer. So I'm going to click on the plus symbol here in the layers panel, and we want to add an empty layer. You can see I've got a new layer there, layer 3. And if I want to minimize this history panel, I'm just going to click this little icon here, this minus symbol, so I can see more of my layers. Again, I want to choose a colour to work with, so I'll switch these round. I've already got a colour, but if you want to choose a new colour, you just double click in that one of these circles down here. You can click and drag to move the hue slider, and then click inside the image to select a colour. Then click OK. I'm then going to go to my brush tool here, and I've got my brush settings up here. So at the moment it's quite big. We want it to be quite a thin brush, so I can go to edit and undo, zoom in a little bit more. I'm going to click on this round circle up here, or where it says 40 and that little arrow, and you've got your size slider, and you've also got softness. So the softness is how kind of hard the edge is or how blended it is. And the size, we're going to reduce that down. Click in the top bar up here just to minimise that, and then let's just test it out. So that's about right. So I'm just going to go edit undo. Now it's a little bit difficult to draw directly onto the screen depending on what you're using. I'm actually using a Wacom tablet for this tutorial because it's kind of much easier to get a smoother line. But what I would say is, when you're creating patterns, always start simple when you're using these techniques for the first time. You can see there's a little bit of a lag, and it really helps to zoom in to the image while you're doing this. It can be a little bit tricky. So I'm just going to go around the basic shapes, and you can see I've got a few mistakes down here. Now what I can do, because I'm working on layer 3 and that's highlighted in blue, I can turn that on and off by clicking this tick symbol here, and you can see it's on that layer. I can just go to my eraser tool, and again I can adjust the brush size up here, so I want to make that a little bit smaller, so I can just go in and just remove any errors, as you can see. And then I'll go back to my brush tool and just smooth that over. So you're going to go all the way over your pattern so that you're drawing in all of the motifs or the shapes within the pattern, but you're not drawing in the edges. So you'll end up with something that looks like this. And you can see again it's on a separate layer. Now once you've done that, we're going to just turn the pattern layer off. So the original pattern that was a photograph, so that's our kind of reference image. Let's click that tick just to turn it off. Turn this one on. Zoom out a little bit. I'm going to use my arrange tool just to highlight it. And then I'm going to just duplicate this layer because I want to repeat it. So you can see this is the kind of stage we want to get to. So if I go to layer and duplicate layer, you can see it's created another version of that layer. I'm going to turn layer 4 off to keep the original at the same size, because this new layer, or the same version of the old layer, we're going to make this smaller so that we can fit at least 4 versions of this within the image, so we can see how it will repeat. So I'm going to make it a little bit smaller, and I'm then going to go layer, duplicate layer. Just get this back up a sec. Move that over, and you can see it looks like it's repeating correctly. I mean, I've kind of done this by eye, so it's never going to be exact, but what we're going to do is we're going to go in and edit these lines down here to make sure that it's more correct. So again, I'm going to go to layer, duplicate layer. With your arrange tool there, move it down so you can check to see the join. Again, layer, duplicate layer, move it over. Now this is just rough, just so we can kind of get an idea of how it repeats. And if I zoom out, you can see it's quite a good job so far, but as I say, there are some errors over here where it's not matching up properly, which when you're creating your patterns by hand, you will always find that there are small errors. So what we can do, we're going to use, we're only going to edit one version of this, and we're going to edit each of the sides separately. So to start with, let's click on this top left-hand version, and you should be able to see in your layers panel down here, when you click on a layer in the image, it highlights it in the layers panel. We're then going to just make sure that these are kind of lined up as accurately as possible, and you can use your arrow keys on your keyboard just to nudge the pattern into place. So nudge it up and down. You can see over here it's not looking quite right, so if I just move it over, and then what I'm going to do, maybe move it up a little bit, try and get it as accurate as possible. Then we're going to go back to the top left pattern, click on that, you can see it highlights it here in the layers panel. Let's zoom in, and we're just going to join up the lines. So this here needs to be joined. So because I've got this highlighted, and if I go to my brush tool, it's only going to be attached to this layer, as you can see. Oh, let's just undo that and get rid of that mistake mark. Now we need to make our brush size a lot smaller now, because we've reduced the size of our pattern. And if you're struggling with this slider, what you can do is just highlight it, the number here, and just type in a number. I find that easier. And we're just going to move, just kind of join up the lines, maybe make that a little bit smaller. There we go. 10 pixels, and this isn't looking quite right here, is it? So we're going to go to our eraser tool, erase that bit, go to our brush tool, move that bit over, just fill that bit in, and you can see that's a lot more smooth. You can even fill in some of these other bits if they're not looking right as well. And again over here, keep clicking this tick symbol to turn it on and off, just to make sure as well that you're working on the right layer. And we can add in some shapes here as well. And if it helps, you can zoom in to make it more accurate. And make your brush sizes smaller. Let's take this to 10 as well. Okay, so I'm going to go all the way down that edge. And then once that's done, I'm going to delete these other versions. So I'm going to click on that right-hand one, the bottom left, or the bottom right, and then the bottom left. And we're going to move this over because we've effectively fixed this join. We're going to move this over and duplicate this layer. We're then going to move that over so that, to see if it matches up a bit more accurately, which the bits that I've actually worked on, you can see it does match up more accurately over here. I didn't go all the way down because it's the same process. And then once you've done that and you fix those two, delete that layer, duplicate this one and move it down so that we're working on the top and bottom joins. So let's zoom in. We're working on the original master copy layer, which is this one. Let's match it up as much as we can, just by eye. And then click on our master copy. In fact, that can just be matched up a bit more accurately. And if you hold down the shift key and your arrow keys, it will nudge the layer into place more quickly. So about there is looking right. Click on your master copy and zoom in, and then we're going to match these up. So we're going to go to our eraser tool, going to erase this part of the line, and then this one here. And then we're going to draw them back in so they actually match more accurately. That was a little bit wonky, so just move that round. Match up some of these. This isn't looking quite right. Like so. Let's match that up. And then the edge joins, we've already fixed those. Might want to just put in a few more lines here. And then once that's done, let's go to our Arrange tool, let's delete this layer at the bottom, and this should work. So we go Layer, Duplicate Layer, move it down. Again, just nudge it into place. Like so. And that's looking a lot more refined. Then we're going to go Layer, Duplicate Layer, move this over. Use your arrow keys. And again, to sit in the bottom right hand corner. Now you might just need to go in and just nudge each layer so that it sits exactly if it's not looking right. Move that over a bit more. And yeah, there we've got it. So that's our pattern complete. That's a kind of basic way of creating a repeat pattern within Pixlr.com, and then using a hand-drawn technique as well. Once you're finished with this, you can then choose to add in various different colours using some of the methods that we've looked at already. There's also another tutorial in this playlist that covers different colour techniques. And yeah, once you're done, we can click File and Save. I would always suggest saving 2 versions of each design. So we've got a PXD version, which is that'll be your kind of layered Pixlr.com version, and then also save a JPEG version as well. Great, I hope you enjoyed this video. Click like and subscribe for more textile design and fashion tutorials.